My name is Daniel Reed. I'm 45 years old, a father of two, and I live a life most people would describe as ordinary. I work as a marketing manager for a mid-sized firm in London, spend my evenings helping my kids with homework, and occasionally find time to binge-watch shows on Netflix. From the outside, everything seems fine. Stable job, happy family, decent health. But on the inside, I've felt hollow for years. Life became a routine, a series of checkboxes. Wake up, work, eat, sleep, repeat. I rarely stopped to think about the bigger picture. What was my purpose? Did I even have one? The truth was, I didn't know, and I didn't care enough to find out. It was easier to just keep moving. Everything changed on an autumn evening. I was driving home from work, my mind racing with a dozen trivial worries, an upcoming deadline, a dent in my car I'd been meaning to fix, and a forgotten promise to pick up my son from soccer practice. The rain was pouring, and the road was slick. I barely saw the truck that ran the red light until it was too late. The impact was immediate and violent. My car spun out of control, the sound of crunching metal and shattering glass filling my ears. Then, silence. No pain, no fear, just silence. When I opened my eyes, I wasn't in the car anymore. I was standing in an endless expanse of soft, glowing light. The ground beneath my feet shimmered like glass, and the air hummed with a strange, calming energy. I didn't know where I was, but one thing was clear. I wasn't on Earth anymore. As I stood there, trying to make sense of my surroundings, a figure appeared in the distance. At first, it was just a shadow, but as it drew closer, I could see her clearly. She was regal, yet approachable, her posture commanding but warm. It was Queen Elizabeth. Ugu, not as I had seen her in the later years of her life, but vibrant, ageless, and full of presence. My breath caught. "Your Majesty," I stammered, unsure of what else to say. She smiled faintly, her eyes kind but piercing. "Daniel," she said, her voice steady and calm, "we've been expecting you." "We," I echoed, confused. "Where am I? What is this place?" "This," she gestured to the glowing expanse around us, "is a realm where truths are revealed and where reflection begins. You are here because there is something you need to understand." I blinked, my mind racing. Why you? Why are you here?" Her smile widened slightly. "Because the lessons you need to learn align with the journey I've already taken. Even the most powerful figures in the world are not immune to reflection and accountability." Her words struck a chord, but before I could respond, the light around us began to shift. Images started to form, suspended in the air like living portraits. They were scenes of people, leaders, families, ordinary individuals, making decisions that rippled outward, affecting lives in ways they couldn't see. "Leadership," she said, stepping closer, "is not about control or authority. It's about impact. Every choice, every action leaves a mark on the world and the people within it." I couldn't tear my eyes away from the images. They were beautiful and tragic, hopeful and heartbreaking all at once. "But I'm not a leader," I said quietly. "I'm just me." "Every life has influence," she replied. "The question is, how do you choose to use yours?" Before I could respond, the images around us shifted again. This time they were darker, scenes of conflict, division, and greed. I saw leaders making decisions driven by power and self-interest, their actions leaving scars on communities and the earth itself. The light dimmed, and the air grew heavy with a sense of sorrow. "Do you see?" the Queen asked, her tone somber. "Even those with the best intentions can falter when their choices are not rooted in humility and service." She gestured toward one image in particular. It showed a young woman standing in front of a massive crowd, her face resolute, but her eyes filled with fear. She believed she was doing what was right, the Queen said, but she allowed pride to cloud her judgment. Her decisions, though well-meaning, caused more harm than good. I swallowed hard, the weight of the moment pressing down on me. But what does this have to do with me? I'm not in a position to make decisions like that. She turned to me, her gaze piercing. You don't have to be a world leader to make an impact. Every action, no matter how small, contributes to the collective spirit of humanity. Your choices ripple outward, influencing more than you realize. The light around us softened, and new images appeared, this time scenes of kindness, resilience, and unity. I saw people coming together to rebuild after disasters, strangers helping each other in times of need, and families finding joy in the simplest moments. These, the Queen said, are the moments that sustain the world. They are not grand. Convenience over compassion. I felt a pang of regret, but also a glimmer of hope. Maybe it wasn't too late to change. The Queen stepped closer, her voice soft but firm. You have been given a glimpse of what could be, both the light and the darkness. The choice is yours, Daniel. Will you return to your life and continue as you were, or will you strive to leave the world better than you found it? Before I could answer, the light around us began to shift again, and the images dissolved into the shimmering expanse. Her voice lingered, steady and unwavering. Your life is more significant than you realize. Use it wisely. The light began to dim, and the shimmering expanse around me started to fade. I felt an intense pull, like gravity reclaiming its hold on me. I wanted to stay, to ask the Queen more questions, to understand everything she had shown me, but the choice was no longer mine. Her final words echoed in my mind. Your life is more significant than you realize. Use it wisely. The next thing I knew, I was gasping for air. The sharp scent of antiseptic filled my nostrils, and bright fluorescent light stung my eyes. I was in a hospital bed, surrounded by worried faces, my wife, my children, and a doctor I didn't recognize. My body ached, my head throbbed, and my thoughts were a jumbled mess. But I was alive. The doctor explained that I had been unconscious for hours following a car accident. It's a miracle you survived, he said. The impact was severe, but there doesn't seem to be any permanent damage. A miracle. That word lingered in my mind. I looked at my wife, her eyes brimming with tears of relief, and my children clinging to her like anchors. For the first time in years, I truly saw them, not just as my family, but as the most important part. Message had stirred something within me, a deep sense of responsibility that I couldn't ignore. I began to reflect on my life, not just on what I had accomplished, but on what I had neglected. The times I had chosen comfort over effort, silence over action, indifference over compassion. The realization was painful, but it was also clarifying. I had been given a second chance, and I couldn't waste it. Once I recovered physically, I knew I couldn't return to life as it was before. Something fundamental had shifted within me. The Queen's words about leadership, humility, and the ripples of our choices played on a loop in my mind. I didn't know exactly how to start, but I knew I had to try. The first step was at home. I began spending more time with my family, not just being present, but truly engaging with them. I listened to my kids' stories about school, helped my wife with tasks. I used to brush off and made a conscious effort to show them how much I cared. These small acts of connection felt transformative, as if I were rediscovering the depth of my relationships. But it didn't stop there. I started looking for ways to make an impact beyond my family. At work, I proposed initiatives to reduce waste and promote sustainability, a concept inspired by the Queen's vision of humanity's interconnection. To my surprise, my colleagues embraced the idea, and soon our office had implemented green policies that made a real difference. Outside of work, I joined community programs focused on mentorship and charity. I shared my story cautiously at first, leaving out the celestial details, but emphasizing the importance of taking responsibility for the world we leave behind. The response was overwhelmingly positive. People wanted to help, to contribute, to be part of something meaningful. One day, during a volunteer event, I overheard two young participants talking. "If he can make changes like this after everything he went through, maybe we can too," one of them said. It was a simple statement, but it resonated deeply. My small ripples were beginning to spread. Months turned into a year, and the changes I had made in my life began to feel less like a reaction to my experience and more like a natural extension of who I was becoming. I no longer saw myself as the person I had been before the accident, a man lost in routine, blind to the significance of his actions. Now, I felt driven by a sense of purpose, a calling to leave the world better than I found it. The Queen's words stayed with me, guiding my choices. Every action, no matter how small, contributes to the collective spirit of humanity. I couldn't stop all the greed, division, or indifference in the world, but I could make a difference in my corner of it. As my story spread, I was invited to speak at schools, community events, and even conferences. People were curious about my near-death experience, though I still hesitated to share the full details. Instead, I focused on the lessons I had learned, the importance of humility, the power of small actions, and the value of connection. One evening, as I prepared for a talk at a local event, I thought about the Queen's final question to me: "Will you strive to leave the world better than you found it?" I didn't have an answer then, but now I did. I realized that the answer wasn't in grand gestures or monumental achievements. It was in the everyday choices to be kind, to care, to act. The event was a success, and as I walked off the stage, a young woman approached me. "Your story inspired me," she said. "I've always felt like I wanted to do something meaningful, but I didn't know where to start. Now I do." Her words brought a smile to my face. The ripples were spreading further than I could have imagined, and as I reflected on the journey that had brought me here, from the glowing expanse to the Queen's wisdom to this moment, I felt a profound sense of peace. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew one thing for certain: I would keep going, felt like I wanted to do something meaningful, but I didn't know where to start. Now I do. Her words brought a smile to my face. The ripples were spreading further than I could have imagined, and as I reflected on the journey that had brought me here, from the glowing expanse to the Queen's wisdom to this moment, I felt a profound sense of peace. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew one thing for certain. I would keep going, keep wisely,